You really think that this is the issue that is going to sink Sharice Davids here in Kansas's 3rd Congressional District? You're kidding yourself. It's not going to happen. Good morning. It's Tuesday. It's great to start off the morning with you on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. So yesterday, it must have been somewhere around 3 o'clock in the afternoon when my inbox on X and Facebook and email started blowing up with many of you sending me a video of Libs of TikTok, which is a viral big-time social media account that showed our local Congresswoman, Sharice Davids, attending and supporting an all-ages, family-friendly pride event that took place down in Gardner. This was over the weekend. And as Libs of TikTok writes here, they misspell Sharice Davids' name, and they say, Sharice Davids attended and supported an all-ages, family-friendly pride event featuring an adult in bondage gear, furries, and drag queens performing sexual-themed dances for children who handed them cash tips. Sharice Davids actually posting this on her X page yesterday morning, saying, got to join Gardner, Kansas's Pride Month celebration yesterday. We're working towards a world where everyone can live openly, our rights are protected, and our differences are celebrated. Now, you full well know by now, I don't support the idea of little kids tipping adult drag queens anywhere in this country. I don't think that's safe. I don't think it's appropriate at all. But if Republicans in Kansas, specifically in the 3rd District in Johnson County, think that, we got it. We got the thing that's going to take down Sharice Davids. It's going to be her in a drag show with little kids. You're kidding yourself. You don't understand the makeup of Johnson County anymore. And whether or not that's right or wrong isn't the point. I'm not saying you shouldn't care. I'm not saying it's not gross to have little kids tipping adult drag queens in Gardner. It is. But it's not going to be the thing that wins you an election in 2024. It's not going to be the thing that takes down Sharice Davids after she just trounced Amanda Atkins and, Kevin Yoder prior to that in the last 3 election cycles in the congressional race here in the 3rd District of Kansas. It's not going to be the thing that sways, frankly, anybody, because of the makeup of the county. So a lot of folks sent this to me yesterday, and they were like, oh, my goodness, did you see the video? And by the way, let's play the video for you just so you can get a little, 6:08 in the morning. You can hear what the drag show down in Gardner sounded like on Sunday. Yeah! Woo! Woo! Shake it, Mark. Feel the beat, boys. Dun, 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 dun. Look at those little kids giving those cash tips. Make it rain, baby. Make it rain. That's right. That's right. Yeah, that was the drag show from Gardner over the weekend that Sharice Davids was bragging about being at. We can goof on it all we want. But you know what's going to actually potentially make a difference? You know what's going to allow one of these Republican candidates to actually make some noise in the 3rd District coming up in November? It's going to be the pitch around basic issues of the economy. I think the border will play in this district. There is a fentanyl crisis in Kansas. One thing I learned when I was in that 5K fighting fentanyl run walk a couple of weeks ago, they had great pieces of data along the 5K that I ran in with my 2 girls. And, I was moving kind of slow because I was in a double stroller. I won the double stroller division, by the way, at 30 minutes and 12 seconds, but I wasn't exactly, breaking any records otherwise. So they had these signs along the 5K running trail, and one of them noted that in 22, Kansas, which I did not know, had the highest per capita death rate for fentanyl poisonings in the country. And a large part of that is because of the wide open southern border. It's indisputable. So with that being said, those are the issues that will connect with families and voters in a place like Johnson County, Kansas, that, is not certainly as red as it once was. Going after the drag show thing, you know what that'll do, by the way? That will help Sharice Davids in her fundraising efforts dramatically. I was talking to some people inside of Kansas politics here in the last 12 hours since this video broke down and came out. And, they noted that actually her fundraising is not as robust as it's been the last couple of election cycles. But if this were to become a thing, if 3rd District and Kansas Republicans were to be like, all right, we're going to make a big deal out of Sharice Davids going to a kid-friendly drag show, guess what would happen? She'd run to all her, friends in Washington, D.C., and she'd say, they're coming after me because of drag shows. Let's raise some money. And boy, she would raise millions in a heartbeat. That's what she would do. She would run to her coastal LGBTQ IA plus exclamation point division sign folks and would say, I'm being attacked over this, cultural issue. Time to raise some dough, John. That's what would happen.
You were talking about her funding. I would say, is that with or without? I can't remember the group. Is it Emily's List or something that sends out money to all female candidates, more or less?
Yes.
So she maybe hadn't gotten that yet.
She hasn't, but you know what? She'd get right to the front of the line.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
If she could prove that she was, being attacked over this issue. So I'm not saying, I accept it. I'm not saying it's appropriate. I'm not saying I would ever bring my kids down to Gardner on Sunday. And by the way, what the heck? Since when did Gardner become a hot spot for, family-friendly drag shows, for crying out loud? My goodness, that place is changing fast.
I was trying to figure out where that was. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I know. When you figure it out, Mark, let me know. Investigative reporter here on KCMO Talk Radio. It's like, I don't know. I don't accept it. I don't find it appropriate at all. But I also realize it's not the thing in this district that is going to help any Republican beat the sitting congresswoman in Kansas. It's not. And if you think that it is, you have misread the electorate in this district, specifically in Johnson County, the last couple of election cycles. So 2 things can be true at the same time here. I find it gross, but at the same time, I also don't think it's the thing, the issue, that I would be making a huge deal about going into this fall election cycle here in Kansas as Republicans try to flip that seat, which has been in Sharice Davids' hands since she won it back in 2018. The text line is 913-4087-957. Pete, the majority of people in Gardner don't want it here either. They always have a lot of pushback. Yep, but in the end, it is a private business. They are, unfortunately, not technically breaking the law. But I'm glad to hear that people in Gardner aren't wild about, kids making it rain on drag queens on Sunday mornings.
The Warren Place venue, I found.
Oh, is that where it is? Okay.
I've driven by it, but I've never been in there.
All right. Well, I plan to never go there. So thank you for the heads up there, Mark. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio on a Tuesday, Kansas and Missouri leading the way on blocking part of Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. This came down last night. We'll get you the details on it and what it means as Biden tries to buy votes ahead of the 2024 election next on KCMO. It's happening right here in our 2 states. Federal judges in Missouri and Kansas yesterday granting temporary injunctions to halt portions of the Biden administration's SAVE plan, which is their most recent scheme to scam taxpayers who did not go to college but bust their butts every day in this country and then bail out white-collar wokesters who don't have jobs who will pay back their student loan debts to then try to buy their votes in November. It's called the SAVE Loan Repayment Plan. That stands for Saving on a Valuable Education. Yeah, it's so valuable you can't pay it back with a real job. That's how valuable that college education is. It's hysterical how they put together these acronyms like the SAVE plan and they call it the saving on a valuable education, as you have working class people bailing out Ivy League educated clowns who apparently can't find the work they need to pay back their student loans. So how valuable was that college degree really, is what I would ask, John.
Well, the debt forgiveness, though, is going to unshackle them from the burden so they can actually open an underwater basket weaving shop.
That's right.
Right? And get a loan.
In between the 3 barista gigs that are going on, right? Unbelievable. So the Missouri ruling came down yesterday in response to a lawsuit filed by Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, and Oklahoma that sought to block the Department of Education from implementing portions of the SAVE loan repayment program. So this temporarily stops the department from being able to reduce the monthly payments of millions of student borrowers. This is good. This is a huge win for you this morning as you get up and you get out and you go to the office, or you're heading out to whatever gig you're heading to right now at 6:20 in the morning. You know that the folks here, the attorneys general in Missouri and Kansas, Andrew Bailey, who's going to be on the show at 7:50 this morning, and Chris Kobach on the Kansas side, are fighting for you. They are fighting to prevent Joe Biden from spending money this country does not have. We are $34 trillion in debt. And this huckster is so desperate to get the youth vote, to get the Gen Zers to come out and vote for him, that he is willing to drive our grandkids into trillions of dollars of more debt to try to buy their votes ahead of November. That's what he's doing with this SAVE plan. The Supreme Court, don't forget, last summer already told him he cannot unilaterally bail out student loans. And he has outwardly defied the Supreme Court in the last several months and tried to do it anyway. You know, if Donald Trump was in office, the media would be screaming about democracy and democratic norms. And they'd be going on and on and on and on about a guy who did not respect the rule of law. Joe Biden brags about this outwardly, about defying the Supreme Court. And he's heralded. And he's called a hero for the little guy. Meantime, he's bailing out people who went to college on the backs of those who didn't, on the backs of those who are going to the mechanic shop this morning, on the backs of those who, are just waking up and trying to make ends meet with 2 gigs today, who don't have a college degree. That's who he's doing it on the backs of. And he's hoping that you're too dumb to realize what's actually going on here. I don't know that if you're listening right now, you're not, but there's a lot of people around the country and around Kansas City who don't realize what a scheme this actually is. Andrew Bailey, the Missouri Attorney General, saying in a statement yesterday, quote, "By attempting to saddle working Missourians with Ivy League debt, Joe Biden is undermining our constitutional structure. Only Congress has the power of the purse." Yeah, I know.
Talk about a bombshell.
Can we remind that to the folks in the West Wing? Only Congress has the power of the purse, not the president. Today's ruling was a huge win for the rule of law and for every American who Joe Biden was about to force to pay off someone else's debt.
Oh, they want to make the rich pay their fair share, though, see? But in this case, defining the rich, and I'm going to use air quotes, is the guy who skipped college and is a Boilermaker now in the union, and now he's got to pay for the basket weaver.
Exactly right.
Who went to college.
Make
the rich pay their fair share.
Yes.
Oddly enough, that's changed. The paradigm's changed who the rich are.
Exactly right. It has. And that's what, if people actually looked at it from a 35,000-foot view and said, maybe I should actually go, be a Boilermaker. Maybe I should actually,
IBEW, et cetera.
Exactly. Become an electrician. Maybe I should do these things that don't require 5 to 6 figures in debt and, are going to result in damn good paychecks when all is said and done. Versus these, people that end up going to college to get their degrees throwing up my air quotes, and they got nothing to show for it, and they're baristas, 5-6 years out of college.
Most of my friends that are in union have enough money to do with whatever they like.
Yeah.
If they want to fish,
yeah,
they're set up. That's the thing about pursuing happiness in this country. You don't need to go to college. That's an antiquated notion.
It is.
Especially at the price.
Mike Rowe is leading the way on that, by the way. He's a bucket list guy for me to get on this show on 95.7 FM KCML. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Our Friday segment.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, man. Don't get me started, John. That's now you're getting me all excited here. It's not even 6:30 on a Tuesday. Take it easy. But that would be awesome. I would love to get that guy on for our Feature Friday segment. So this is Kansas and Missouri. We should be very proud of our states today, leading the way on fighting back. And by the way, 2 federal judges here in Kansas and Missouri who came down with these decisions yesterday to grant temporary injunctions on Monday to halt portions of SAVE. So now, coming up on Thursday, when the debate takes place between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I hope Trump comes out swinging on this issue. Because this is one of those things that is easily 60-40. It might be 70-30. Maybe that's a little high. 65-35. Where the American people are at on a president of the United States unilaterally bailing out student loan debt. Trump should hit this. And he should hit it hard, and he should hit it early on Thursday night, since it's topical to this week. I don't care. Jake Tapper is not going to want to talk about it, the guy who's doing the debate for CNN. But Trump can weave this in the first 15, 20 minutes of the debate. It would be absolutely outstanding. It'd be a big win. Pete, I'd rather, this is on the text line, 913-408-7957. I'd rather them pay the student loans than give the money to Israel, Ukraine, or the illegal aliens. I mean, what's that mean? That's a tallest midget argument right there. Just because you might be spending money on other things you don't like doesn't mean this is money well spent. We are running a $2 trillion annual deficit. We are $35 trillion in debt. Let's get it all under control. How about that? Coming up next, the Chiefs cut a player that was long overdue. But for some in local media, that wasn't good enough. They want a full-blown apology. Give me a break. We'll get to the story next. Well, the Chiefs did the obvious thing, and this is not at all shocking. It's not at all controversial. The Chiefs announcing yesterday they have released defensive lineman Isaiah Buggs. Isaiah Buggs never played it down for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was signed to the team back in January. He spent his time with this team mostly on the practice squad. But he has found himself in a tremendous amount of legal trouble here during the offseason. Buggs is 27 years old. He's currently sitting in a Tuscaloosa County jail in Alabama after his bond was revoked following a pair of off-field incidents in Alabama here in recent weeks. In early May, Isaiah Buggs was accused of animal cruelty in Tuscaloosa. Then, just over a week ago, Buggs was arrested by the Tuscaloosa County Sheriff's Office on suspicion of domestic violence and burglary. So this guy's been on the team since January after being cut by the Detroit Lions. He was on the practice squad for the rest of the season, did not appear in any games. The Chiefs did sign him to a futures contract in February, but once again, he really has never done anything for this team. So finally, he got shown the door. He got the boot yesterday. Not a shocker, well-deserved. Of course, he's allowed to have his day in court, but you get these 2 incidents and allegations back-to-back for a guy who's done nothing more than be on the practice squad. That's not worth your time. And, frankly, I don't care if he's on a cheap practice squad deal. He is not worth Clark Hunt's Red Lobster money.
I'm not worth your Red Lobster money?
No, he's not. He's not. Okay? That's not how this goes. So with that being said, you'd think that's enough, right? Well, no. Not according to the Kansas City Star editorial board. One of their writers, Toriano Porter, putting up yesterday, despite this move of cutting Buggs, as an editorial board, we stand by our initial call to action. Anything less from the Chiefs than public support of abused women and mistreated animals won't cut it. A corporate condemnation of acts of violence would speak to adult and youth fans across the country. It's got to be exhausting to try to find the faux moral high ground every day, like the Kansas City Star editorial board tries to do. They cut the guy. Okay, I don't need the Chiefs to tell me that it's morally wrong to allegedly commit animal cruelty, commit burglary, and commit acts of domestic violence. I don't need the Chiefs to do that in some public statement. You know where that needs to come from? If you don't know that already, family, parents, loved ones, if you need the Kansas City Chiefs to put out a statement saying abusing women and animals is wrong and stealing is wrong, well, guess what? You've got a lot of other things in your life that need to be straightened out. And a tweet or an X post from the Chiefs is the least of your troubles.
I'd like that announcement from the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office, actually.
That would be nice, too.
Isn't that, what if?
Yeah, that would be very nice. If we could get that from our local leaders before the Chiefs, that would go a lot further, right? Hey,
ironically, yes.
We are going to hammer and prosecute the you-know-what out of those of you here in Jackson County, Missouri, who are committing acts of violence, whether it's domestic violence, animal cruelty, fill in the burglary. We're coming after you, SOBs. I'd love to hear that from Gene Peters Baker. Not a dopey statement from the Chiefs about Isaiah Buggs, who no one ever heard of 2 weeks ago.
Guess they didn't notice that down at the Star, did they?
No.
Didn't ask for that same thing.
Of course not.
No.
They're in full-blown protection mode for our local county prosecutor, Gene Peters Baker. But they demand the Chiefs put out a statement about domestic violence, burglary, and animal cruelty. All things that decent people understand are wrong. It's you just can't take these people seriously. They have every excuse in the book for criminals here locally. But now the Chiefs have to put out some statement about animal cruelty and, domestic violence and how burglary is bad? For who? It's just, goodness gracious. They did what needed to be done. They got rid of the guy. Move on. So the Chiefs put up this X post yesterday. It says, we have released DT, defensive tackle Isaiah Buggs. That's all it said. The top response is, can you do Mahomes next? Sincerely, a 49ers fan. I respect it. I do.
George Kittle's back in Iowa. He happened to see it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's too good. Oh, gosh. Now, speaking of sports and Mahomes, this came down yesterday. Mark Schlereth. Remember him from his Denver Broncos days. I know he's no stranger to Chiefs fans. So he does a radio show over in Denver now and does a morning show over there. And yesterday he went viral for making fun of and just really blasting, and good for him, I respect this, Bill Belichick for being 72 years old and having this new 24-year-old girlfriend that's taken over the internet. It's one of those things where I didn't think, we've goofed on Belichick for this since this came out of whatever it was, a week ago or so. However, I figured in the old boys club of, NFL circles, they'd all be like, oh, yeah, this is awesome, man. Oh, yeah, this is so cool. No, but not Mark Schlereth, and I know he's a Bronco, okay? But I give this guy some props for what he said and the way that he and his co-host just mercilessly mocked Bill Belichick yesterday in this clip that's gone viral.
Hey, Bill, what are we doing tonight? What are we going to do?
Thought we could eat some dinner, maybe watch some Mahomes cut-ups, go to bed.
Bill, you going to need to take your little pill tonight?
No, watch Mahomes cut-ups.
Mahomes cut-ups. Good to go, right?
Mahomes cut-ups. Don't need the blue pill.
You're right. It is gross. 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 There's like a 50-year difference between them. Gross.
Dude, if your daughter's she's in her 20s,
she's 21. Right? Gross.
Dude, if a 72-year-old man,
I'd punch him.
What
are you doing? What are you doing?
What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
I have a newfound respect for Mark Schlereth, especially as he's talking about not needing the little blue pill because he's watching Mahomes cut-ups.
That's all I need to.
Oh, man. I got to go back. Well, is that how you ended up with a third kid, by the way, Mark? You were watching too many Mahomes cut-ups?
Just watching Super Bowl highlights. And, oh, man. There we go.
He was watching the replay on NFL Network of the Chiefs-Eagles last spring, and next thing you know, he's got a kid coming in December.
Whoopsie.
Whoops. It happens. 11, 8-year-old, and a newborn. That's how it happens in Van Sickle world. Oh, my gosh. 913-408-7957.
I believe Sharice's daughter was on the Travis Kelce dating show back in the day.
Oh, is that right?
I think she was one of the finalists.
Well, I didn't know that. Well, you know what? Good for these guys. It's one thing for us to mock Bill Belichick, but when you got guys in the NFL inner circle saying, dude, you're 72, she's 24, her name is Jordan Hudson, you just look like a clown and a dirty old man. Like, I don't know what that age limit is or should be. I'd say it's, I think if you're 72, maybe like 25 years, late 40s is somewhat acceptable. But what the heck what are you possibly talking to a 24-year-old about at 72? What could you possibly have in common that is at all relatable? It's just the weirdest thing, and it is gross. And, I respect a guy like Mark Schlereth saying as much. And then using the Mahomes cut-up reference, John.
What they have in common is his bank account.
You know what? You're right.
Right.
You're right. You're
they
right.
both like green?
Yeah, that's the extent of it. That's, boy, that is so true. Coming up on KCMO, don't forget, we got the next text-to-win keyword for the Morgan Wallen flyaway to Vegas. At 7:50 this morning, we have Rolling Stones tickets at 8:45 to go see them for their last stop on the North America tour down in the Ozarks. Coming up, a Missouri gubernatorial candidate is telling somebody to get bent in a new ad. His words. Why? What's the play? What's he going for? We'll share it next on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. Yeah, it's hot. I know. It's Kansas City in late June. It gets hot. I was looking at some of the local TV stations, Channel 9, KMBC. You just go to their website right now, kmbc.com. It says in all caps, the top of the website, extreme heat. That's literally all it says. And then it's got a picture of their one of their weather guys, Neville, I'm blanking on his last name, standing in front of, a map showing it 95 degrees in Kansas City, 97 degrees in Olathe, 96 degrees in St. Joe.
Neville Miller.
Neville Miller. Thank you very much, Mark. Mark knows the third-string weather guys just like he knows the third-string defensive tackles for the Chiefs.
It's very true.
Yeah, so good work. I knew it wasn't Brian Busby. Not much I knew. So it's like, yeah, it's hot. Okay, we're all going to make it. It's going to cool off tomorrow, by the way. So I want to get your thoughts on this if you're a Missouri voter. 30 to 40% of you are still undecided, according to polls, in the Missouri governor's race. It's really a three-person race right now. There's Mike Kehoe, who's the current lieutenant governor. There is Jay Ashcroft, who is the current secretary of state. They're apparently neck and neck, if you believe the polls. And then there's Bill Eigel, who is in the state senate, who is, I would say running the, I don't know if most conservative campaign is the right way to put it. But he's certainly, taking some pages out of the Eric Greitens 2016 playbook throughout his campaign. And Bill Eigel is going to be in studio this morning at 8 o'clock. And he rolls out an ad that is going to be on your television starting today in and around Kansas City. And take a listen to the ad. And I'm just asking you at 913-408-7957. You can text in or call in. If you're undecided, does this ad appeal to you?
Washington calls us backwards. They look down on us. Well, Washington can get bent. I'm Bill Eigel. Here in Missouri, we believe in boys and girls, not its, theys, or thems. We worship God, not abortion. We cling to guns, not government. And we know where illegal immigrants belong. the hell out of here. I'm Bill Eigel. As governor, I'll always fight Washington because that's how we save Missouri.
Okay, that Bill Eigel ad where he tells Washington to get bent, which is, slang for basically F off, if you want the interpretation of get bent if you're not down with the lingo, I guess. Then he goes right into the culture wars. We believe in boys and girls, not it's theys and thems and the whole deal. Then he leans into guns. Then he leans into illegals. So he's really hit the trifecta in the culture wars in this ad that's going to be on your Kansas City televisions starting today. And he's going to be in the studio at 8 o'clock. But you just tell me, if you're sitting there right now in Missouri and you're like, I've heard these three guys on KCMO, Eigel, Kehoe, and Ashcroft. I think they all could be pretty good governors. Does that ad, leaning heavily into the screw DC culture war deal, does that appeal to you? It's very Eric Greitens-esque, but as Scott Fawn of the Missouri Times said yesterday on the show, the difference between Eric Greitens and Bill Eigel is that, frankly, Bill Eigel just doesn't have the money right now that Eric Greitens had back in 2016. And Eric Greitens, Bill Eigel's likable. We've had him out for a politics and a pint. But Eric Greitens, whether you love him or you hate him, doesn't matter what you think of the guy. You get in a room with him and you talk to him, and he is, pretty charismatic. He does have that audience wrapped around his finger. He has an ability to do that is pretty unique. A lot of politicians want to have that, but don't necessarily have that. So I think that Bill Eigel's message appeals and will appeal to thousands and thousands of Missourians. There's no doubt about it. And you will see that ad starting today in and around Kansas City. But does he have enough financially to get that message broadly around the entire state, number one? And number two, is that going to be enough to sway people away from a Mike Kehoe, to get people away from a guy like Jay Ashcroft, who obviously has enormous name ID in this state that is worth millions of dollars. That name ID alone is worth millions of dollars for Jay Ashcroft. So you hear that and you say to yourself, I can get on board with that. That's exactly what I want to hear from my next governor of Missouri, and Bill Eigel. That's exactly the message I want. Or do you say, too much. I don't need a guy telling Washington to get bent. I don't need it. 913-408-7957. That's the studio line and the text line here on KCMO. And Bill Eigel is going to be in the studio coming up 1 hour from now at 8:05. So we'll play the ad. We'll ask him about the ad, which is going to be up in and around Kansas City. On the text line, Pete, I absolutely love it. Bill Eigel's my guy. Okay. That's great. That's good.
Such a nice man.
That's what Bill Eigel wants to hear coming out of that ad. He's trying to appeal to the person who is on the fence. And I don't think there's a ton of people right now who feel incredibly strongly about their chosen candidate. I think there's a lot of folks who might be like, yeah, I like Jay Ashcroft. I liked his dad. I like the name, blah, blah, blah. But if they see an ad like that, they're like, no, that's my guy right there. Bill Eigel. That's what I want to hear from my next governor of Missouri. So you're going to make that call. And it's going to be one of those things that I think is going to go right down to the finish line. And we're going to be covering it right down to the finish line here on 95.7 FM KCMO and streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We've got the Morgan Wallen Flyaway text to win keyword that is going to be coming up at 7:50 this morning. And we also have those Rolling Stones tickets at 8:45. So it's all part of a busy 3 hours left here on 95.7 FM, streaming, of course, on the KCMO Talk Radio app as we take you up until Ray Stevens, who's taken over, of course, at 10 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio. It's great to be here as we roll through the morning on 95.7 FM. We've got you and much more. We also have Dave Traubert, who's going to be here at 7:30, so don't miss him with the Kansas Policy Institute. He's going to have something for you on Kansas schools. If you're a taxpayer and or a parent, this thing is going to blow your mind. That is coming up at 7:35. But next, we are just over 48 hours away from the Trump-Biden debate. And my fear is that too many in Trump world are setting this thing up for a bad debate and looking to already blame the moderators. And I think that's a loser mentality. I'll explain coming up next. I think it's one of the lamer things that happens every 4 years. Debate moderators are biased. Wow.
Talk about a bombshell.
I had no idea that was coming. I mean, Donald Trump did agree to this debate coming up on Thursday night with CNN, and Jake Tapper is going to be doing it. Nobody's surprised by that. And, there's no doubt that he is a lackey for the Democratic Party. I mean, that's indisputable when you look at his history. And you're seeing some of that play out. Like, the stage is being set by many in Trump's inner circle to use the excuse of, look at how bad the moderators are, look at how biased the moderators are. But here's the thing. Everyone knows that. Even those who are going to vote for Joe Biden secretly will admit, I mean, they won't say it publicly, of course, but they would admit privately that, we all know where Jake Tapper's at. We all know where CNN is at. None of this is surprising. So if you agree to it and you know going into it and you knew months ago going into it what you were dealing with, why is the foundation being laid as we sit here on a Tuesday morning with this debate coming up on Thursday night, which, by the way, is going to air right here on KCMO 95.7 FM. We confirmed that yesterday. Why are we laying the foundation for something that we knew to be true the second Donald Trump agreed to it? You're seeing a lot of these clips surface around the internet over the last 24 hours where, Jake Tapper clearly over the last several years has shown his bias, like this from 2020.
In the last week or so, you were talking about the future of the Republican Party, if Trump wins or if he doesn't. In the last week or so, two completely unhinged conspiracy theorists, both of them complete bigots as well, have won Republican congressional nominations. Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia in a Republican district, and Laura Loomer in Florida in a district that leans Democratic. President Trump has praised both of them, gone out of his way to say positive things about these really unlikable candidates in terms of the things that they say and do. Is it possible, Congressman, is it possible that the Republican Party is now the party of deranged bigots, and there isn't a place in it any longer for a Charlie Dent?
Is it possible, questions Jake Tapper. The Republican Party is now the party of deranged bigots, he said back in 2020. For the party that controls the House of Representatives and come January of 25 could very well control the U.S. Senate, the House of Representatives, and the White House. And you have supposedly credible newsmen saying on their shows in the last few years that it very well could be the party of deranged bigots. This is nothing new. Like, that's just one of the many clips that is being pushed over the last 48 hours of like, oh, Jake Tapper is going to be biased on Thursday night. We know that. To use an analogy, if you're the Chiefs and you're going into a game and you know how the refs are going to call the game, you know that you've got an official on the back end who loves to throw the flag on the secondary. You've got an official on the sideline who loves to call the left tackle for holding. You've got to adjust. Maybe you're not going to run off the left tackle. Maybe you're going to run off the right tackle. Maybe you're going to figure out a way to make sure that you've got less deep passes so you don't get flags thrown on your secondary. Something like that. You find ways around it knowing how the officials are going to call the game. Especially when you think you've got the better team anyway. And you better believe going into this thing on Thursday night, Donald Trump believes, as he should, that 90 minutes mano a mano with the guy who currently finds himself in the White House, he should feel very good about his prospects, even if he's got referees who are not going to call the game properly and are not going to call the game fairly. But you knew that when you agreed to this whole thing. So I don't like this whole setup that's happened this week of, oh, man, it's going to be so biased. Tapper's going to be the worst. If you think it's going to be to the point where it's going to hurt you and your candidacy, then don't agree to it. But you agreed to a CNN debate. You knew how this was going to go. The American people know which way the bias is going to lean. So just come prepared for it and come with a plan. Don't set up the excuse making with 48 to 72 hours left. That I'm not a fan of. Paul's in Kansas City at 913-408-7957. That's the studio line and the text line at 710 in the morning. What's up, Paul? Happy Tuesday.
Hey, happy Tuesday, brother. Here's a strategy to even overcome a bias. The last 4 words of every comment that President Trump makes is, "You did that, Joe." So when he talks about inflation compounding at 20%, well, you did that, Joe. Nice and calm. Immigration, illegal immigration over the border, all-time record, 11 million, millions of gotaways. You did that, Joe. That's all you got to say. 4 words after every statement. You did that, Joe, because he's got a record.
Yeah, and that's a big difference. That's a big difference, Paul. Good stuff from 2020.
Thank you.
When, of course, the guy had no record, and he ran as, a moderate extension of Barack Obama. And Joe Biden's career was mostly as a conservative Democrat. Now you got a Bernie Sanders wannabe who, frankly, is less lucid than Bernie, of all things. 913-408-7957 as we roll through the morning here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Let's go back to you and the phones. Randy is in Napoleon. What's up, Randy? Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, hey, I think you're doing a little mistake on the fact that they're looking for an excuse for failure. Trump can't fail in this debate, first off. Second off, this is a continuation of him making the enemy of the people the media. So I think what they're doing is they're hyping the facts and causing people to become enraged with the media overall. I don't think it's a concern or excuse-making, in my opinion.
Well, here's what I would say, though, Randy. I mean, you said Trump can fail. He can fail on Thursday.
No. Here's the thing is, you saw how far Chris Wallace had to get to try to get him to fail. And what he's basically saying is watch this, because he knows there's really no place else for him to hide Biden. And so they're going to have to go to really crazy extents.
He's got to let Biden hang himself. If he tries to, overdo
you heard
it
at the rally. Did you hear at the rally where he gave the choice to the people? He said, "Do I go after him and tear him up, or do I just let him talk?"
Let him talk.
Yeah, well, and I believe that's what he's going to do. My point is, though, is part of Trump's campaign against Biden is against the media, and I think that's drawing a lot of voters to him because they know the media is liars.
I think the base loves that, and certainly, I do, as someone in the media, appreciate it and respect it. But like that, let's say that Johnson County swing voter, I don't think that they're looking for a guy who's going to point out the absurdities of the media. I think that it'll feed to the base, but I don't think it'll feed to anybody else, which is really what he needs to do on Thursday night.
I think the term swing voter has actually changed because the way Biden is hanging everything in our economy and our healthcare and everything else, I think swing voter becomes an adjective for a noose.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
All right, Randy. I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you. 913-408-7957.